you can see me partially only because today I want to talk about child seats. Okay, there seems to be a bit of a heated topic recently when ministers said that to put the child seat in the front seats, you know, to prevent parents from forgetting their child, blah 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 blah. Okay, and there seems to be some hoo-ha concerning this, and then there are people saying that no, you couldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, that is stupid, blah blah blah. I would like to have my inputs a little bit about this. Let me come to the back first to try and explain to you guys. Now, first and foremost, there are two things that we need to use our brain to consider when we talk about child seats. First is, of course, crash protection. This is where this bulky plastic, you know, this enclosure, this encasing is about. That is crash protection. The second thing would be restraint. Now, what do I mean by restraint? Now, this is a case which is rather empty. If I put this in here, imagine this thing is not as strongly built as a car key. Put it in here, close it, and then imagine this is the car, and the child in there is not restrained. Okay, let's not talk about crash. We don't want to talk about crash first, okay? Because crash is something that rarely happens. Maybe once in a lifetime, depending when is. Anyway, it rarely happens. Okay, doesn't mean it won't happen. I'm not saying that hey, it doesn't happen. No. What I'm saying is a huge major crash like those you watch on Euro NCAP videos, right? Yes, they happen every day in Malaysia. Malaysia has a very, very high case of happening, and we have to be extra vigilant as well. But compared to things like you're driving and then a motorcycle comes up and then you jam your brake. Can you hear that? The child in there. To me, restraining a child in the car is way more important than anything else. Yes, a proper child seat like this may increase the chances of survivability when there is a huge crash, but what is more important than a child seat is to be able to be restrained, whether it is the correct method that is currently accepted or not. The current industry standard says that everything should be 3-pointed at least, you know. So they want children to adults or children be it. Sorry, that's a booster seat. Okay. I have that at the back as well. I'll release that later. Oh, I can reach it. Wait. That's how you properly secure a child seat, okay? Not only the ISOFIX mounts, but also the teeter at the back there. You have to make sure the seat is well teetered. Yeah. So what I mean is this. This is the seat belt. Proper 3-pointed seat belts. Okay? Before I know Malaysia banned lap belts. Malaysia has banned lap belts, which in my opinion, you don't ban something. Okay, it's safer and more proper to have a 3-pointed seatbelt. Do you remember going to the theme park roller coasters? They have lap belts. Those are perfectly well. They also protect you. Why? Because the most important thing is to prevent this, to restrain you. However it is restrained, be it very minimally with Velcro or extremely safe with a pocket. You're in there, right? It's also restraining. Restraining a person in a car is utmost important, not just the proper way. You know, it doesn't mean that You shouldn't be protected if you're not the most well protected in a child seat, rear facing, all this. You see, there are a lot of dynamics, okay? Don't just follow the textbook. Textbook says rear facing is better because the back can handle more, whatever, okay? If your child cries a lot when you put him or her rear facing because she couldn't see shit, right? And you couldn't see her as well. There are no eye contact when you're in the car. If your child is rear facing and she makes a lot of noise, it makes you hard to concentrate driving. Then you put her facing the front, because rear facing is only better when you are in a big collision. Other than that, there's no harm. Okay? Same goes if the minister says that if you are a forgetful person, you're worried, put your child in the front. I see no wrong. Yes, there's an airbag if you go into a major collision and the airbag might deploy. If you are luckier, you can afford a European car, you can switch off the airbag, right? And then your child can be with you. You will not forget her or him, and she is restrained in a child seat, some form of protection. The most important thing is whether the child in the car is restrained or not, because it doesn't mean that when you're not in a child seat, your car will crash. No, the fundamental protection that we need for our children is when we suddenly brake, right? Or suddenly there is something that we need to swerve, and those actually cause harm to them, or we actually lost control of our car, you know, not a major impact sort of crash, but we may be spinning and all that, or barrel rolling. Restraining the person is most important, and to keep them in the car, prevent them from being flung out, their arms or whatever, that's the minimum. So don't ban things that are minimal safety when they cannot achieve maximum safety, right? If you put your child seat rear facing at the back here, very secure and all that, and you're a forgetful person and then you forgot about your child. So I need to urge a lot of people who like to follow textbook. They're very textbook thinking, and then they criticize everybody when they don't follow textbook, and they forgot about logical thinking. You know, logical thinking is very important. I would really congratulate any car maker, say for example, especially the Proton and Perodoras, if they come out with a car like Myvi, and they have the standard government approved, UNECE approved 3-pointed seatbelt, 1, 2, 3, because the car seats 3 at the back, right? But if Proton or Perodora is smart about it, they also come up with a lap belt, one lap belt that laps across however many percent, but just goes over the entire length of the rear bench. Like how sometimes there are certain theme parks where we have one belt that laps 2% of 3, right? Why? Because that will reflect the actual usage of Malaysians. You know, a lot of people try to lobby for mandatory child seat usage. You guys are very selfish, because you can afford, right? You can have a Velfire at home or whatever, and then each of your child, and then you don't have that many children, you have 2 children, then you have 2 child seats, and then you want to advocate for mandatory child seat usage. It's very unfair to other families where they have 4 children, and all this while they probably had just 1 or 2 motorcycles, and finally they can afford a used car, and then you want to put them out of their car, because if they were to use a car, they must have child seat, and they have 4 children. Where do you want them to put their children, right? Back onto their motorcycles where it's legal, or how, right? So to me, coming from a motorcycle to a car, you are already, how many, even if you don't wear seatbelts, okay, you are already safer by how many tenfold. Okay, from a motorcycle to a car, you are way safer already, even without using a seatbelt. And then when you are in a car, the family, but they can only afford a 1 car, say for example, the father, the mother, and then at the back here 4 children or 5, doesn't matter. one lap belt laps all of them, instead of having 3 sets of seat belts and another 2 children don't know what to do. And a lot of you like to blame, oh, look at the mother is carrying the child at the front. What can she do when 3 is at the back, another young one? Does she expect the brothers to hold the child, or she could hold the child? So sometimes before you all judge other people, right, you should think about the actual practical aspect of things, right? We are Malaysians. We are very good in seeing through the grey area and realizing the actual problem before we rely on actual rule and law. Because rule and law, they are dead. Humans are alive. We are variable. So that's what I want to say today. I don't think the minister is wrong for suggesting that. And a lot of people lambast her and say that things like, oh, stupid lah, you know, the airbags lah, but she's saying a very practical thing. If you don't want to miss out your child. So what if she said that, hey, I can't afford a car with airbags, I bought a very, very old car, the car doesn't have airbags, will you all shut up? And then she's okay to put a child at the front? Or how, right? So we need to look at things from a, not just a severity, but the occurrence of it, right? The daily driving, sudden jam braking, all these things are way, way more likely to happen. Or forgetting a child is way more likely to happen than, you know, a full-on crash or whatever. So that's what I want. That is why I never agreed with mandatory child seats. I myself definitely use it, but I don't think I should be that selfish in advocating for it and then putting a lot of families where they finally can afford a car but then it is extra burden to get a child seat. And some of you might like to argue that, oh, they modify their cars, they should have just bought. This is really, really just very, very selfish thinking. Because what if they have 4 children? Where do they put them? Where? Right? So yeah, to me, as long as we for families, if they are able to get off their motorcycles, you know, 2 child at the front, the mother at the back, the mother carrying another one, as long as they come out from that, they go into a car, I don't mind if they don't wear seatbelts. Seriously. Because you are already 20-30 times safer than in a motorcycle. And if you are in a car, if they don't have 3-point seatbelts, a simple lap belt, they are also many times safer than when they are on a motorcycle. So that's what I want to say today. Cheers.